Hey guys, it's Saturday, April 3rd. It's the second episode of the Shop Talk. Got my buddy Frank, who was with us last time, and we added a new friend and new member of the shop, Matty Fisher. He will be our sharp in residence as we talk some betting down the line, along with a bunch of other topics. I think we're going to touch some college basketball, a little Todd McShay 4.0. Some Major League Baseball predictions and opening day takeaways, and then maybe a couple bets of the week. With that in mind, I'll kick it off to Frank to get us rolling.
Yeah, so right off the bat, let's just get into it. We're going to talk Final Four college hoops, and we got the two games of today set up. We got number 1 Baylor versus number 2 Houston, and then the second game is going to be number 1 Gonzaga versus number 11 UCLA. Alex, why don't you start? What do you think about this first game, the Baylor-Houston game?
Yeah, well, I think if you're looking back to last week, you got to be impressed with Baylor's guard play. I think that's been exceptional all tournament long and all year long. I think they've had 4 different leading scorers thus far, and that doesn't include 2 of their All-Americans, which is pretty impressive. Houston, I think I said this last week, gone under the radar and continued to perform, but I think this is Baylor's game to lose. I've been impressed with how they've come off the COVID break that they've had, and I expect them to continue. And unfortunately, I'm feeling a little chalky and think we're going to get a Gonzaga Baylor final. But we'll see. I think Houston has certainly been underrated thus far, and wouldn't be shocked if they take down Baylor today.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I think that Baylor is just a really solid offense team, and Houston, like you said, to their credit, has been criminally underrated. I think that this game is definitely going to be a lot closer than people think, but I think you're right. We're going to get a chalk matchup with Baylor winning this one. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think what impressed me most about Baylor's win was just the play of Davion Mitchell, especially down the stretch, not even just his defense, but also leading the offense. It shows in his defense why he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the NCAA this year. But his athleticism and ability to get to the cup just absolutely overwhelmed Arkansas down the stretch. And so as I think about this matchup with Houston, you have Giroux for the Cougars, who's also one of the best defensive players, but kind of the 3-headed monster of the guard play for the Bears. He can only take out one player. And so with the matchup with Syracuse, his ability to just shut down Boeheim, you can't do that against Baylor. And that's why I think they ultimately do win this game. I think Houston will be able to keep it close. And
Matt, I think Giroux and Grimes are the big X factors, right? What type of play do you get out of them? I think they're good enough to, basically overwhelm the 3-headed monster of Baylor, but it's a matter of, how exceptional do they play? And I think, like you said, the odds are more likely that just Baylor's depth and ability to hit you from a bunch of different angles is too much for Houston.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, that backcourt matchup is what I'm most excited to watch. And I mean, it just has felt like all year, and talk about being chalky, that Baylor and Gonzaga were just going to meet in the finals. I'm glad they're on opposite sides of the bracket, so we can actually see that national championship. But throughout the entire year, just from an athleticism, from a depth, from a shooting perspective, it's just really been unrivaled for those two teams. And so while I think this Saturday might be a little boring, other than whether or not they cover could be interesting. The Monday's game, I'm just so stoked to watch that matchup, especially Suggs going at Mitchell. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I think Suggs has solidified himself as easily a top 3 draft pick. And then I think he's gonna be an all-star at the next level. I think he is an exceptional basketball player in all facets.
Yeah, I think as we get closer to the NBA draft, Suggs like people talk Suggs in the number one pick, because I think in today's NBA, guard play is just so important. And I mean, he's only going to get better, I think, at the next level with his ability to shoot and just his quickness. And I think people start to talk themselves into picking him number one, especially depending on who ends up with that number one pick. If they need a guard, it's a no doubter. It's a no brainer for me.
I think it depends on who gets the pick, and then ultimately, what do you believe in the upside for Cade Cunningham, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
I agree.
What about game number 2? What do you think, Frank? We got UCLA Gonzaga, right? I mean, the story's got to be UCLA. They were in the first 4 games. And now they're in the final 4.
First team since VCU.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
being in the first 4 game against Michigan State, everyone and their mother, I think, had Michigan State coming out on top on that one. And like the UCLA game back, this past week probably was the best game of the tournament, save for Oral Roberts beating Ohio State, right? I mean, it was an excellent basketball game. Fucking
quick second, Frankie. Got to take your hat off to Juwan Howard for the coaching job he did this tournament without his best player. Like, it was absolutely it was beyond impressive, I thought. Anyway, go ahead, Frank. I just wanted to make sure we noted that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Impressive job without your best player, right? Just even getting there. But Juzang just shot the lights out, and Michigan just really wasn't able to do that. Like, they had, I think it was Franz Wagner went 1 for 10.
Yeah,
and I think Mike
he
Smith went 1 for
wide
like
open
7.
top of the key look to win the game.
That was
I know, right?
By the way, that was so painful for him. Like, I felt so bad. That dude, he was having the worst game. He really, I mean, I hate to be the guy. I know it's not a easy moment. That man tripled. He went Paul George and Kawhi in the 4th. That man just absolutely just like that. It was not like good.
38 minutes, and I think the only 2 minutes he was out were when he like rolled his ankle and just came right back in.
He
stroked it. That kid's a sophomore too. I'm excited to see what he does. I know it's going to probably be a tough game for UCLA against Gonzaga, but I'm excited to see.
Who are you talking about?
Are you not talking about Juzang?
No, Juzang's a stud. I'm talking about Wagner, who went 1 for 10.
Oh, Wagner,
He stunk it up. He
absolutely stunk.
He shrunk under pressure. He went Kawhi and Paul George when Paul George shot it off the side of the backboard.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, definitely
that's
did that.
What he did. Yeah, he stunk.
Anyway,
proceed.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you really want to leg UCLA in this matchup against Gonzaga? But Gonzaga is just simply too good. We were talking about Timmy earlier. He had that celly. I don't know if you saw in that USC
game. The dime.
Fucking strokes.
That one too, and he picks up the dime.
It was such an electric moment seeing Timmy with the Fu Manchu.
Okay, so maybe a better question is, are we all unanimous that we think Gonzaga is the best team in the country and that we're going to win this game?
Yeah.
What does UCLA have to do to win the game? Matt?
Yeah, so I think Juzang has to have a similar performance. I think he had the performance of the tournament last week. I mean, I knew he was good, but I mean, he just, like, you talk about Wagner choking. I mean, I think he made all of Michigan shrink because they made the whole team. I mean, they missed their last 8 shots in the game. And I think people talked about, and you guys talked about last week, about Michigan being fraudulent. I think most of the tournament, they proved they weren't until that last 5 minutes, because
they didn't have a guy who in the moment when shit hit the fan, who can we lean on, right? And nobody has livers, and they didn't have him. They didn't have him, and I honestly thought, maybe Mike Smith or Wagner had it in him, and unfortunately they didn't.
Yeah, and so I mean, like with Juzang, when Juzang had the ball the last 2 minutes, like you just, like, it's kind of like Damian Lillard when he has the ball, or Kobe or whoever it is. You just feel like they're gonna win. And I think he needs to, the only world where UCLA stays close in this game is one. I think Gonzaga needs to just have an off shooting night.
Yeah, as I say, they got to shoot like shit.
I think. Yeah. I don't think so. I think the only world that Gonzaga can lose is one, if they beat themselves, and two, if Juzang drops 30.
Yeah.
And so he drops.
And the game's 30. Slow, and the game is slow.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a 60 to 58 type game.
Yep.
Where Gonzaga just can't score for some reason. And then Juzang down the stretch scores the last 8 points for UCLA.
Makes a couple big buckets, and Gonzaga can score down the stretch.
Yeah,
I agree. I think we're all in agreement that we think it's going to be a Baylor Gonzaga final. What's everyone thinking for the final? Who's going to win? Are we all taking Gonzaga? Are we all taking Gonzaga?
Initially, I personally, I have Gonzaga in my bracket, right? So I would take them personally, but just for the sake of being a little spicy, I think Baylor's a really good offensive team. And I think that because Gonzaga really I don't think that they're probably going to beat themselves. I think they're going to hit their shots and they're going to get there. I think that the only team really that's going to kind of keep up with that is probably going to be the Baylor Bears if they get the same type of offensive production that they've had, in the past couple games. So I'll be spicy. I'll take Baylor.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't. So the matchup I can't wait to see, and I've been waiting all season to watch, is Suggs going at Mitchell. I just think that matchup is going to be so much fun, and I think Baylor could win that game. I think Mitchell could slow Suggs down enough for it to be competitive. If twist my arm, I have to go with Gonzaga simply because I think no one on Baylor can do anything about Timmy. And so even though Suggs might be slowed down, I think Timmy, Timmy just takes over. He drops 25,
and it's by the way, it's the quietest 25 you've ever seen.
Quiet,
absolutely.
Yeah. He gets like I could see him getting like 12 rebounds, and 6 of them are offensive rebounds. Like that type of dominant game in the paint. And I think when we're talking next week, kind of reflecting on it, I think we're having a conversation about whether or not Gonzaga is the greatest college basketball team of all time. I think
Fisher coming with a big take.
Yeah, I think not only so, like, when's the last time it happened? The 70s? Like, I wasn't watching college basketball in the 70s. I was born 20 years later, but I think the level of competition now is better than it's ever been. And I also, to be able to do what they have done, being 30-0 on Final Four Saturday during a global pandemic where everything can go wrong, will go wrong. The fact they've been able to just be so steady, I think, is the most impressive thing about their team. Kenny Smith was talking about this on TNT, but they never play to their competition. No. They play at their great level, and they challenge you to be great.
They're like the if you look at other undefeated teams in the past that have come to the tournament, besides maybe the passing Gonzaga teams, they're like the anti-Kentucky or the anti-Duke. Absolutely. The unbelievable talented Kentucky teams, whether it was the John Wall, Boogie Cousins teams, or like the Anthony Davis teams or the Harrison Twins, when they were either undefeated or had like one loss, like those teams very much played up and down to their competition because they were just all one and dones and unbelievably talented. And there was certainly an element of like, let's just flip the switch. And that bit them in the ass a couple of times, right? When they lost to Wisconsin and Frank Kaminsky. And then I think John Wall and Boogie Cousins lost like West Virginia in the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken. And like a bunch of no names, but Huggins full court press, and they didn't shoot the ball well. And you look up and there's 4 minutes left and you're down by 8, right? But Mark Few, and I think Gonzaga's, the way their roster's built is similar to what it was when they, maybe were 30-0 in the past, but now they have the Jalen Suggs and the Timmys of the world and the All-Americans as well. Like their talent has gone up, but they've also maintained what has given them notoriety in the past and given Mark Few so much credit in the past. Mm-hmm. And I think that combination is to your point, Matt, you can make the argument it's the best team or the best season if you don't want to call them the best team. Yeah. The best season in college basketball history, given all that's going on.
Sure.
I think what's also interesting about talking about kind of the Kentucky teams in the past, and like you're right, like when I'm reflecting on what teams it reminds me of, I guess was the Anthony Davis year where they lost one game in the regular season and then steamrolled the tournament.
Everybody else. Yep.
But I think with with the rule changes to kind of the draft in NCAA and the one and done era kind of maybe potentially winding down, I think you're going to see programs like the Gonzagas, like the Villanovas of the world, where they've done a good job staying competitive in the one and done era, but also building a culture and building a team that doesn't rely on the one and dones. I think you're going to see those programs flourish in this kind of potentially post.
Matt, and I think you can get how the way Alabama and Clemson are in college football.
Yeah,
I think that's been really hard to duplicate in the NCAA basketball because of the one and dones, right? Like you're just constantly churning through players, and it makes it really difficult. And I think now, like you said, with the G League, like you're being able to go straight out of high school and less one and dones happening, and that era maybe dying down a little bit, like you said, it allows for programs like an Alabama or Clemson of college football to form in college basketball, because you're going to have kids for longer. You can build the culture, like you said, you can build your play style, et cetera. And I totally agree with that. And I think you're going to see more kind of dynastic programs, as opposed to you have like what you've seen in the past, like just depending on who gets the most 5-star recruits,
Yep.
Yeah. And to your guys' credit, right? I mean, we, in our lifetimes, I've seen Gonzaga go from kind of like a mid-major to a, kind of like almost I guess right now you can call them a powerhouse, right? Like they're starting to get up there. And we're starting to see a similar type of thing with Loyola Chicago, where we had this school no one really ever heard about, no one really knew of as being a big basketball school, and they make it to the Final Four. And this year they're competitive as well. Alex, we were talking about it last week. We were calling them a Cinderella story, and I think that's maybe even a little disrespectful to them, just because they are such a talented squad.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last week, I just think they were undefeated. Like, I don't think they get enough notoriety. And I totally agree. I think there's going to be more quote unquote programs as opposed to players dictating college basketball, where it's been more, I think, just inherently basketball is more player driven. I think you're going to see, like you said, more program driven success moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I sure hope so, because that just makes college basketball that much more fun to watch.
Yeah, it improves the parity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, also when you I reflect on when I was a kid watching like JJ Redick play 4 years at Duke. Like I loved that team because I just loved JJ Redick. When I was growing up, like a white kid who could shoot a basketball, I wanted to be JJ Redick. Like that was my idol. I wore number 4. And with the one and done era, I actually found myself like I love the tournament and like I'm gonna always love the tournament. I didn't ever feel the same type of connection to any given team, because
there's so much rollover. Like every
like
year the team was different. Yeah,
like I like players, especially in basketball, that's so player driven. Like in the NBA, I have my favorite players and they play on teams who then I cheer for. Yeah. In college basketball, like every given year, like I think Suggs is probably my favorite player in college basketball right now. I love Mitchell. I think Giroux is amazing also. And so those are kind of 3 favorite players. And so those are the teams I want to cheer for.
Then they're gonna be gone next year. So then you gotta go find a new team. Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. Like imagine if Zion was at Duke for 4 years, like you had to follow him for 4 years, like that'd be so much fun.
Coach K probably doesn't withdraw from the fucking tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Seriously.
Maybe talking to them going 30,
Exactly. I don't know. Let's keep things moving. A lot of good topics being talked about with basketball, but let's keep moving into opening day MLB. What do you want to start? You just want to go through the divisions, little prediction for each, everything, and see what you guys think, or you want to go into the games first?
Let's do rough and tough, go by division, kind of our predictions, and then maybe a little World Series. I'm happy to kick it off. I'll start in the AL. The AL East, as a diehard Yankee fan, I'm going to go with the New York Yankees. Obviously, that's barring health. The Rays are a problem, and the Blue Jays are a problem.
For sure.
But I'm going to go with the Yankees. I think if we stay healthy, depending on what Domingo Germán we get and what Severino looks like in the midsummer, I think we can be electric. And then on the flip side, if Severino, isn't healthy, Germán is not 2019 Germán, Kluber can't stay healthy, and our offense continues to never be, at full strength either, then we're gonna have issues. But barring health, I'm gonna go with the Yanks. In the AL Central, I'm gonna go with the White Sox. It stinks. Eloy Jimenez is out for the year. I think he's a stud. He's electric. He's fun to watch. He would have been really exciting to see this year. But I love their offense. Tim Anderson at shortstop he's the old bringing fun back to the game. He's fun as well. I think Lucas Giolito's an absolute dog on the bump. So I'm going to go with the White Sox there. Moving down to the AL West. Is this the year that Trout makes the playoffs?
I hope so. I really do.
I still don't think so. He's unbelievable. He is an absolute stud. He will go down as one of the greatest baseball players of all time. But I'm going to go, and I can't believe I'm saying this as a Yankee fan. I'm going Mr. Crane and the Houston Astros. As much as they're hated, I think they're a deep team. They're a good baseball team. Whether or not Correa is there for long term, I don't know. But for this year, I think they're going to come out with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Now they're going to see fans as well and be like, "Hey, we're still here." And they've shown the willingness to embrace that villain role, and I think that they're going to win that division. I think that one's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be a bit of a crapshoot. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Athletics involved. The Mariners, I'm not too concerned about, or the Rangers either. But I think, Angels, Astros, Athletics, I wouldn't be shocked if any of those teams win. I think the winner of that division wins less than 90 games, probably. Yeah. Probably like upper 80s.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, moving on to the NL, I'm going to go NL East. Let's go with the New York Mets. Huh? Stevie Cohen.
Why not us?
Coming in. He's completely revamped the organization from a culture perspective. I love seeing him on Twitter talking about how good of a player Lindor is. Love that contract extension.
Yeah.
Love their deep, young talent. We'll talk about MVP and Cy Young prediction, but I wouldn't be shocked if DeGrom wins both in the NL. Certainly, I have him winning the NL Cy Young, but I think the Mets are right, barring health, to some of the Yankees. They have a really, really good year this year, and I think one big question mark there is whether or not you are going to get Lindor of 2.5 years ago, or 275 Lindor with 20 dingers, right? Like, is he going to play is this the best player in baseball, Francisco Lindor, that I think we all got really excited about? But don't sleep on the Atlanta Braves. I wouldn't be shocked. Like, if you told me the Atlanta Braves were in the World Series in 6 months or whatever, that wouldn't shock me. I really think the Mets and the Braves could both be in the World Series. I think the Dodgers are the clear favorite. Quickly going to the NL West. I think everyone's going to say the Dodgers. But for fun, I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres because I love watching that baseball team play. I think they're extremely exciting. To be quite honest, I think they're arguably the most exciting team in baseball now with some of the additions that they made over the offseason with Snell, amongst others. And Tatis is arguably my favorite player, not in the Yankees. And then finally, the Central. This one's tough for me. I'm a little torn. I don't think the Cubs are the Cubs of old.
No.
I'm going to go with the big acquisition of the division. I'm going to go with the Cardinals, add Nolan Arenado. He's obviously an MVP candidate every year, one of the best players in all baseball. So let's go with the Cardinals. A little chalky, but I'm okay with that. And if you want to go World Series prediction, I'm going to say coming out of the NL West, we have the San Diego Padres versus the AL East, New York Yankees. And my AL Cy Young is none other than Garrett Cole, obviously.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you see him pumping 100 on the paint in like 40-degree weather the other day? Get out of here.
He's
then
incredible.
My AL MVP, sleeper, Shohei Ohtani from the Los Angeles Angels.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
eat that, honestly.
Come on now.
That's a hot take.
It could be a hot take, but it could be also a really nice take. If give me 10 starts, he goes 9-1 and then hits 25 home runs and hits 300. I don't know.
I mean, if he does that, he's my MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. The only problem there is that you're almost asking the impossible of someone like that, right? Like it's just so difficult to do
I
that.
don't know. Did you watch spring training?
I mean, yeah, that's true. He was wheeling, he was dealing. So
All right. So AL Cy Young, Garrett Cole, AL MVP Shohei Ohtani, NL Cy Young, Jacob deGrom,
Yep.
NL MVP Fernando Tatis. Proceed. Take it over, Matt.
yeah, Matt, let's swing it to you. Alex
let's-
went through a lot there, but you agree with a lot of what he said? Is there anything you disagree
I
with?
do. I do agree with most of what he said, so I'm going to try to be a little bit different just to keep it interesting. And I'll rip through this quickly because I think you did a good recap of most of, if not all of the teams. In the AL Central, I have the White Sox. I think the White Sox, like the White Sox are the most random franchise for me. Like they were good that one year in like 2006 or 8.
Was that Mark Burley?
Yeah.
And
He
AJ
did that
Pierzynski?
Yeah, he had the perfect game also randomly, and then he almost had another one the next start. It was incredible. So they haven't been good since then, I don't think. And they were that was one of the best teams of all time, low key. And so I think this White Sox team.
Paul Konerko,
dude,
he was a dog.
Yeah,
He
and then he went to then he went to my Giants and stunk. He was brutal. And we paid a lot for him too. So I like the White Sox in the Central. I don't think this division is as interesting as I hoped it would be coming out of last season. I think the Twins are a good team. I just don't. And I think they probably make the playoffs as a wild card team.
I agree.
Or like they get one of those playing spots, but I don't think they're going to challenge. I think the White Sox could get close to 100 games, if not more than 100
well,
games.
I think the biggest thing there, right, when to win some games is the Indians. I think are going to suck.
Yeah. And I think the Royals and Tigers are two of the worst teams in baseball. Sorry, Royals and Tigers fans. But moving to the East, you got to go with the Yankees. I mean, I think a healthy Yankees team wins the World Series pretty comfortably. I mean, you have like the scenario where Cole, Kluber, and Severino are healthy. How do you beat them? They start at least 6 games in a 7-game series. How do you win that series? I don't know. And they also have the best hitting probably in baseball also. So I think the Yankees comfortably win the East. I think the Blue Jays and the Rays are good. Red Sox are a little underwhelming this year, but the Yankees just have too much star power for that division. Going to the AL West. I'm going to go with the A's. Maybe it's because I'm a Bay Area homer. I don't know. And I also just don't want to pick the Astros. But I think this is probably the most interesting division in baseball because I think the Astros, the A's, and the Angels, the 3 A's, all are going to be competitive. I'd like to say this is the year that Trout makes the playoffs. I think if he was on a better team, we'd be talking about him as a GOAT potentially because he's that good. The start of his career has been that good. But
statistically, he like the track record he's on is like unanimous GOAT.
Yeah. Except, I mean, it's funny too, because like in every other sport, winning is so important in GOAT talk, but in baseball, it's just not because like one hitter, especially just the impact in a game is so marginal because you get 3 to 4 to 5 at bats a game. And that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to when Bonds on the Giants was just like getting walked with the bases loaded. Like he never even won a World Series. And so I'd love to see Trout in the postseason. I just don't know when that actually happens. Moving to the NL Central. I'll go with the Brewers. I'll mix it up. I mean, I think the favorite has to be the Cardinals adding Arenado, but I'd like to see the Brewers kind of get back some of the magic they had 2 years ago. I think this is also a really competitive division. I think the Cardinals, Brewers, Reds, and Cubs are all good teams. I think, and the fact they have to play each other, like the fact those are the teams that they're playing against, I think that'll like hurt their overall record a little bit. So it might be like a 90 to 94 winner.
If that, but still, I would be shocked it's lower.
Yeah, and still be one of the best teams in baseball. Whoever wins that division. Moving to the NL East, I'm gonna go with the Braves. I think the Braves, they might be my World Series pick. I'll get to it in a second, but I think that team. I think the Mets have done a lot of good things this offseason. I think Stevie Cohen taking over is exciting for baseball. Kind of a villain, but going to throw a lot of money to make his team good. But I think the Braves will prove to be too much for them, and then the Mets take one of those wild card spots. And then going to the West, I have to go with the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers roster, it's as good on the field as it is on paper, which is scary. And so so those are my picks.
They learn how to base run though. They got to learn how to run the base.
Yeah, they do. So then World Series picks. I'm gonna go Yankees, Braves. I think I'd want to go Dodgers, but it's just not interesting. So I'm gonna go Yankees, Braves. Little bit of throwback to the 2000 pennant. And I think the Yankees ultimately pull it out. I think the Yankees are gonna win it.
You got two Yankees picks.
Yeah, I just don't see how a healthy Yankees team loses, and I'm just going to assume health. And so obviously health is going to throw a wrench in it, but I just don't see how in a 7 games format just is so good for the Yankees with their starting pitching staff and just their consistency on offense. And then AL MVP, I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go Trout. I think he's going to do everything in his power to get the Angels to the postseason to fall a little bit short. I could see him 330, 40 home runs, 110 RBIs type season, just like almost competing for the Triple Crown again. MVP, or I guess I'll go Cy Young first. Cy Young, I'm going to go with Giolito. I think he's going to make the White Sox. I think it'll be Yankees White Sox in the ALCS, and I think it's going to be because Giolito has just a transcendent year. And then moving to the NL for MVP, I'm going to go with Acuna Jr.
A lot of choices.
Yeah, I'm going to go with because I'm just going to stick on this Braves train. I'm going to go with Acuna Jr. I think I just think he has. I mean, Tatis is also one of my favorite players, but Acuna Jr. is right up there. I like, so I'm going to go with him, stick on this Braves train. And then for the Cy Young,
dude, you got to go to DeGrom.
Yeah, I got to go to DeGrom. I'd love to be interesting, but I can't be. Like, he's just, what's his
name?
You
can go Bauer.
Yeah. I think Bauer's not going to win because the Dodgers pitching staff is just so good. It's going to be kind of diluted. And so I think DeGrom will stand out on the Mets where Bauer will stand out less on the Dodgers. And the fact his team is so good will hurt his Cy Young case. Yeah. Yeah. So those are my picks.
Frankie, up to you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go as in depth with this. You guys have a lot of great takes, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to run through it. You guys are all high on the Yankees. I'm a Yankees fan also, but I have PTSD with just in past years, being able to stay healthy. With all the bats that we have, just sometimes being inconsistent with being able to, put runners in scoring position and whatnot. I think I'm going to go with the Rays just because I'm masochistic and I like to feel bad about all that shit. I think you guys are right on about the White Sox. The Twins are good, but they're going to end up taking the AL Central. And I want to like the Angels because you're right. I do want Trout to go to the playoffs because he's the best player in baseball. I mean, it's not even close. I think he's just in a market where they don't show him enough on the East Coast. I know it's like I was trying to watch him at a bar last night or a couple nights ago and just couldn't find the game on. It's just not on. But I'm gonna go with the Astros. I think the Astros are a good game, and you're right, Alex. I think that they do play that villain role pretty well, and they're kind of buying into it. So, have a little fun with that. The Mets and the Braves in the NL East is going to be a very, very tight race. I think they're both good teams. I'm going to pick the Mets. Why not? I think that the Braves, like I said, keeping it close, but the Mets, I think the change in ownership, they're changing a lot of things around. It's going to make a lot of improvements there. I have an issue with the Brewers simply because, Yelich had such a bad year last year, and it was very uncharacteristic of him. I think if he goes back to a 2019, 2018 version of himself, that Brewers team has a lot better chance. But right now I'm going to take the Cardinals, a little chalky. And keeping up with the chalk, like the Dodgers are a fucking death squad, Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts, right? And they just have an unbelievable starting rotation. So, I mean, it's what do you got?
World Series?
World Series. Let's go with I'll have a little fun here. Let's do Mets versus we'll do Mets Astros. How about that?
Wow.
Spicy.
We'll
go
spicy.
spicy.
That is a little spice.
We'll go spicy.
Frankie, write that down.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's keep track of that. So we got Mets.
I have you two with your picks. Mine are very similar to, I think, yours, Alex. So I don't really need to keep track of that. But the Mets, Houston, I will keep them. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Write down the World Series. That's all.
I like it. I love that pick.
You got winning.
You know what? If I said the Mets, I feel like you guys would hate me, but I think the Mets would win that.
Series. So we got three New York picks.
Three New York picks.
Just two
no bias. No bias.
We'll see it.
Before we move on to talk about Mr. McShay's 4.0, one question I have for the boys about Major League Baseball and their rule changes and all that stuff. I was watching opening day, and the New York Yankees are down 3-2 in the bottom of the 10th inning. And in the new extra inning rules, there's a runner starting on second base with nobody out. And I know Aaron Boone just got, some heart surgery and had a pacemaker put in, but it doesn't affect your noggin.
Mm-mm.
Why do these guys not bunt the runner on second over every single time, down by one run, and you now have two outs to bring in the guy from third, thus being one of your hitters can make an out to score him. You have two shots. How is that not? I don't understand why that's not the move every time. Do you guys agree with me? Disagree with me? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
I'm missing a rule.
I was watching the end of the game at a bar in Stamford, right, with Kevin, and there's someone on second with no outs, and these two middle-aged guys, 4-year-old Yankee fans, are right next to us. The game ends and they're like, "Did you guys see what just happened?" We're like, "Yeah." Like, why did they not bunt over? They're thinking the same exact thing as you and me and everyone else. Like, it just doesn't make sense to not move them over in that situation. I get having faith in the bats, right? But they were not awake today or 2 days ago.
I think also what bunting does is it forces the defense to change how they play defense, which opens up more holes on the field. And so with one out, runner on third, the infield has to come in. Yep. And then also the outfield has to come in so they have a shot at throwing them out at home. And so that just opens up the field for your hitters versus I'm sure someone in the Yankees organization did the analytics and said, you know what, actually, it's better if he's already in scoring position.
Just let him play straight up.
Let's take 3 cracks at it. We need one base hit type of thing. And also if he hits it to the other side of the infield, like he hits it like a little ground ball second,
like LeMahieu did in the 9th.
Yeah, you're going to move him over to third anyway. And so I'm guessing that's why they did it. And I don't like playing backseat manager because there's stuff going on that I don't know. But I mean, I know Alex did. I played baseball my entire life. Every single time I'm bunting there, every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm forcing the infield to come in. I'm forcing the outfield to come in. And I mean, how easy is it for every single person in the Yankees lineup to hit a long fly ball to the outfield? Like, come on. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. So we're all in agreement, which is a little bit boring, but
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out full season. If like what the strategy is on that stuff moving forward.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see if there's some creativity in terms of base running in that scenario. I mean, I think especially in playoff baseball where you're going to do whatever you can to manufacture runs. I think like a hit and run could be interesting there.
I really like hit and run, especially with lefties. Lefties.
Yeah, just slap a ground ball and with the base runner moving and just create havoc. Like I think that would be a really interesting play. So I think there's room to be creative, and so I actually like the rule change. I think it makes actually fun.
Matt, I think you can make the argument too, right? Like even if you're starting the extra innings, like to go with the same strategy, depending on who's due up in the bottom half for the other team. You have in your bullpen, you can like if I have Chapman going up in the bottom half against 7, 8, 9, and I'm the Yankees are away, like, and I'm the top half of the inning, I'll bunt him over. I'll go up by 1 run and trust Chapman to get it done with 7, 8, 9. And totally by the way, talk about like I'm not saying bunting's a gimme. Like it's really not a gimme against Aroldis Chapman. Like throws the ball all over the place. It's coming in 100. That's not. Just saying, just get a bunt out. That's not an easy task against Chapman.
Yep.
Just like a off example, but anyway.
Before we move on to football, I wanted to ask you guys. I don't know if you saw this, but the White Sox, Yermin Mercedes, right, in his first career start as a DH, 5 for 5 with 4 ribbies in a 12-8 win over the Angels.
I can say I did not see that, but that's pretty phenomenal and one thing I will say on that. Brian Hayes, Pirates, first at bat ever went yard. I played against him back in the day in perfect game baseball.
There you go.
There's a fun fact for you. Now he's the number two prospect in all of baseball. Yeah. I am not the number 2 prospect in all of baseball.
I don't know. That was just something that I saw. I don't know if you guys saw that, but 28-year-old catcher has his stint in the
wait, that was his debut too, first ever.
That was his first start. He's had I think
8-year-old debut. That's like some it was Daniel Baird, the closer for the Brewers for the Rockies.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting all the favorites lost on the first day.
That's good. That's going too.
I mean
baseball.
What's fun about baseball too is I think betting on baseball is fun because you just usually bet money line because it's kind of impossible to pick the run differential. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees winning that game, I could not have felt more confident in with Jarrett Cole on the mound. Like I'm just like they're gonna win a game. It's like gonna be 5-2, 5-3 type game. It's gonna feel less close than the score indicates. And then the Yankees give up a run early. And once Sanchez hit that home run, I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I thought the game would go. And then they lost an extra. So, I mean, I think I hope that's an indication of kind of what this year is. Because I think we went through all our picks. I think there's a kind of consensus that this year will be chalky. And I'm excited to kind of see who the dark horse team is that shakes that up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be the White Sox. To both your prior comments, I wouldn't be shocked if them and the Braves make some interesting moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's transition. That was baseball, and now we're going into Todd McShay's mock draft 4.0. Alex, Matt, where do we want to start?
Matt, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So I'm going to go through 2 kind of picks I thought were interesting. First one being Zach Wilson, less because I think that pick is interesting. I think 4 months ago, the fact that Wilson was going second maybe would have been more interesting, particularly after Justin Fields' performance against Clemson. But it's just slowly been, understood that Zach Wilson's going number 2. But I think what's interesting about this pick is what the Jets do with Darnold. For me, if I were the Jets, and obviously, like I don't like to backseat manage, but I'd maybe say, you know what, Darnold, start until the bye. It's understood you're going to start until the bye. Let's get you paid or get some sort of trade stock for him. Because I think what's interesting is, you guys talked about last week, I'm in agreement. I think Sam Darnold's good. And I think the media in general regards him as a good player who just landed in a bad spot and just got absolutely, like, his career just got completely derailed by the dysfunction of Adam Gase.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is amongst GMs, I don't know if they share that like view on Darnold. And I mean, I think
the market for him indicates that they don't, right? Like,
I think that's crazy. And so that's why, if I'm the Jets, like, I think that's why they haven't moved off of him, is not because they want him, they think he's the future of the franchise. It's just simply because they're looking at an asset and thinking it's worth more than what the market says it is. And so
really agree.
that's so that's why what I think is interesting about the number 2 pick is, you know what, like, Darnold starts until the bye. Like, everyone, fully transparent, everyone in the organization knows that. It allows Darnold to play him into, like, get himself paid, because right now I think if
it's basically a tryout, it's basically a showcase for the rest of the league.
Exactly. So it's good for the Jets because they might be able to actually trade him for something. It's good for Darnold because if right now Darnold doesn't start and he just gets cut, like, he might be out of the league really quickly, or he's just going to be a perennial backup. And I think he's better than that. And so, and I think he believes he's better than that. And so I think that's kind of a win-win. And it also allows Wilson to kind of just get adjusted to the NFL, get to I mean, not that you're going to learn that much under Darnold necessarily, but it allows you to kind of get your feet wet, learn a little bit, and then maybe you take over a 2-5, 3-4 type football team, where if you make a playoff push, like, all of a sudden your stock is through the roof.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's interesting about that second pick. And then moving on to, I think the next pick that jumped out to me, and I know Alex is going to talk about the other quarterbacks, but Jamar Chase to the Bengals, I just absolutely loved. Like, I mean, I think it was just, I understand why he sat out last year. It's just, as a fan, so disappointing not seeing kind of Jamar Chase play. But I think Cincinnati, if they do end up taking him, that's a fun team. That's a fun team to watch, with hopefully a healthy Burrow coming back from that devastating injury, linking back up with Chase. I think the Bengals need to bolster their line. So I was a little bit surprised seeing them take a wide receiver. So I think it's a fun pick, and I think it gets Burrow a comfortable target, but I don't know if it's necessarily addressing what the team needs. And so I'm curious to kind of see what else they do with the rest of their picks. And I'm gonna really quickly jump in with the Devontae Smith at 6. I think that's interesting because it's the Dolphins going all in on Tua.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything last year that would make me want to go all in on Tua. And so I think them trading down is really interesting. And I understand the, hey, like, let's get him weapons and see what we have here type of thing. But he got benched in the last 2 games when the Dolphins were very competitive and were potentially a playoff team. And so I think Devontae Smith is incredible. I think he had the best season for a wide receiver in college football ever last year. But I mean, you talk about Darnold, like, is Tua better than Darnold? Like, I can't necessarily say that with a straight face. And so I think it's, I'm curious to kind of see what I know we talked about the Fins a lot last week, and so I won't dwell on it, but that's another pick that kind of made me think a little bit.
Yeah, no, as a Fins fan, seeing Smith at 6 on this definitely is a little bit of a head scratcher, right? Just because.
So who do you want to pick then?
Well, I think that the consensus might be that, well, at least among the Dolphins, that he's a little too small. Maybe Jalen Waddle might be a better option.
Jalen Waddle at 6.
Listen,
coming off a broken
I
leg.
don't want to take him at 6 at all. You know, I would want Jamar Chase because he's obviously the better receiver. I think, you know, the better pick. But
is he obviously the better receiver?
Well, not obviously, but like
I think Smith's going to surprise. I mean, like, you listen to wide receivers talk about Smith, like the NFL players talk about him.
If D-Hop gives you love,
yeah,
you can play, man.
Listen,
if Jalen Ramsey shouts you out, you know you can really play, because that dude thinks everyone sucks.
No,
I know. I've never heard him say anything good about anyone, actually. I think
Maybe the first receiver he's ever said is good.
yeah.
yeah. Listen, I'm not poo-pooing the guy. Obviously, he's an extremely talented receiver, but when you're 160 pounds in the National Football League, I mean, you are going to have a lot of coaches and a lot of people in the front office that
How much
have
does
question
Tyreek
marks
Hill
that
weigh?
wonder if you're durable enough.
Yeah.
You know?
How much
Is
does
he
Tyreek Hill
lighter
weigh?
than Tyreek Hill?
Is he? I think he is.
I think Tyreek Hill's 185, maybe. I mean, 20 pounds is a lot, but like you.
I
Like,
also, by the way,
yeah.
Devontae Smith's also not 160. That was
Yeah.
Is he
Also,
not?
you
I
get
thought he
him in
was. Did he not weigh in at the combine at 160?
no chance.
I could be wrong about that.
I don't know, but I mean, you also get him in an NFL workout regimen. Like, I mean, he puts on 10 pounds of lean muscle pretty
Hey,
quick.
guys, he also didn't play at freaking Bumblefuck University. He played at
I-
Alabama against NFL talent every freaking week. And like,
Listen.
he also
played
never,
against-
Like I
like,
said, not poo-pooing the guy, but
He
Dude,
played against
did-
Surtain probably in practice every week too.
did play against Surtain every week in practice, along with a bunch of other NFL defensive players. And oh,
Yeah.
by the way, his fragility was certainly not an issue.
no, I get it.
National championship game, he got hurt though.
Sure. And Jalen Waddle broke his leg before that. So
Yeah, I know. I'm all in on Smith. I think he's a stud. I think he had the best season ever. He was the MVP of the championship game and didn't play in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, how nuts is that? Like, there was one play in the championship game where like you could see him on the screen lined up in the slot with a linebacker over him, and literally real time.
everyone
I
flashing
say out loud,
lights.
like, there's no way he's being guarded. Like, I think it was like a Tampa 2 or the middle linebacker is supposed
Yeah,
to
he
take the
flies
streak.
out and basically.
And it's like, when what? Like, I'm like, I know Sarkisian runs a good offense, but I was like, I play Madden and I know that just because I play Madden, I know that's a bad matchup. Like, there's no world where he's keeping up with him on that streak. And then sure enough, it was a touchdown.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
derail.
it's all good. But I don't know. I mean, just as a Dolphins fan, I just don't think that they traded out of 3 to 12 and into 6 to take Devonta Smith. I think that.
okay. So let me go back to the question I asked you 12 minutes ago. Who did they trade out of 3 and back into 6 for?
I think it was for Jamar Chase, personally.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with you saying Jamar Chase because I think it's realistic. It's not far-fetched to think that the Bengals take Penei Sewell. So,
No, absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
so I think that that's their thought, right? Like the Dolphins could be saying, hey, we're going to come in at 6. If the Bengals take Sewell, we'll get Jamar Chase. If they take Jamar Chase, we'll take Devontae Smith, and we're really happy either way.
Yeah. I think
They're
the
one
big
one
thing
B,
there.
right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you have any other big takeaways you had, Frankie, from this?
Yeah. I saw that this corner from South Carolina going 10 to the Cowboys, right? And I don't hate the fact that the Cowboys were taking a corner, but I feel like that kid from Virginia Tech was probably a little more impressive, no?
Caleb Farley. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough. So the Jace Horn kid, he tested out of his mind at his pro day.
Yeah.
And his tape's really damn good. I think he actually walked off. I think he like jumped 11-1 on the broad, ran a 4.39, and then just said, I'm not working out. He's like, you can watch my tape. And just nothing more for me to do.
That's a cornerback confidence too. Like, you need to have that type of confidence.
I think he's one of those guys, all the measurables, Jace Horn is probably the biggest upside given his size and speed and athletic ability. And his tape's also really good. I'm very much in the camp of liking the guy can play football and the guy can play football also. Surtain's probably the best corner overall. And Farley's really good as well. Actually, I think they had him dropping to the Cardinals. I was talking to Zach Allen about it, and like he'd be really excited about Farley. He thinks Farley's really good. So I think all 3 of them are actually a lot closer than people think.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that will be reflected in ultimately where they get drafted, just given the depth of talent in other positions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't hate that pick. I don't necessarily love it either. I think they need a corner. So it's a matter of kind of who's there at 10 and then pick your poison. I don't know.
I like them bolstering the secondary though. I mean,
Yeah, no,
that
they certainly need a corner. I agree.
Definitely need
Yeah.
one.
I think it's more. I think it's
Jones.
more. I meant more. Pick your poison of which corner you like the most.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the Cowboys at 10, I'm probably just picking the best defensive player. Maybe not a linebacker because you like your middle backer core, but other than that, I'm taking the best defensive player on the board.
I think is a corner. It'll be a corner.
Yeah. I think it probably is Horn. I like McShay talks about Farley's back maybe causing some scouts to have a little bit of pause. But I liked the pick overall. I think it's if the Cowboys don't do that, I'm questioning whether or not Jerry Jones needs to retire. Like not from owner obviously, but being involved in the day.
Would you? Okay, so here's just a question I was just thinking about. Would you hate if we look at the draft, right? If Bengals take Chase, Dolphins take Devontae Smith, Panthers take an offensive player, Lions take an offensive player with this trade, and the Broncos go corner. Would you hate if the Cowboys go Penei Sewell?
Yeah,
personally,
really, yes,
I do. Let's assume Dak's healthy. They're going to comfortably be able to put up 35 points a game, with the wide receivers they have and Zeke revitalized with Dak coming back.
I think the O-line's getting fragile and old.
I know it's a misconception that's still one of the best offensive lines in football. I think you can never go wrong picking an offensive lineman, but I think they will continue to be a perennial 8-8 team unless they upgrade their defense.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
My take is that Sewell is not if you looked at the big board overall, he's probably a top 5 player.
Yeah.
And for him to fall that low, it might make sense, especially you're talking, perennial 10-year starting left tackle potentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And on a rookie deal. But
I love Sewell to the Chargers though.
I do too. I saw that.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, the Chargers need something.
That'd be a heist for them. Right? That'd be unbelievable for them, right? If he falls down there.
Herbert is their Jesus. He needs to save the franchise because literally they're going bankrupt. And so I hope he does fall. I think the Chargers are a fun franchise. I love the LT years when Phillip Rivers was younger. They were one of the best teams that just never got over the hump. So I wouldn't be mad if he ends up falling to 13, even though I agree he's a top 5 talent. It's just kind of circumstances and what teams need.
Yeah, I think also opting out hurt him. As well.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex, what are your takeaways from this?
I think you guys touched on a few of them. I think the thing that was most intriguing and exciting to me was the trade up that the Patriots pulled, according to McShay. Up to 11 for Justin Fields. First of all, it's kind of crazy to me that in this mock, he's the 5th quarterback off the board.
Right?
Yeah. Crazy.
Watch him against Clemson. Did we all see the same guy?
Did you see though?
How does Trey Lance get more love than Justin Fields? That blows my mind.
So I don't know if you guys saw this, and I'm probably going to misquote this stat, but some scout analyzed 250 throws of Fields, and over 200 of them were to his first read.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about that. Yep, I heard that.
I'm not saying he can't go through progressions, but scouts not seeing him do it can cause concern. And then couple that with he doesn't throw wide receivers open yet. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the biggest jump to the NFL is because no one's actually open. You have to throw them open.
Okay.
And so those two things.
Trey Lance doesn't throw wide receivers open either.
Yeah, but then Trey Lance looks like a quarterback to people. I think
could be having people that like his athleticism more than they like Justin Fields. Not that Justin Fields.
No way, dude. He ran a 4.44.
Wait, we did. You're right. Never mind.
What? Are you talking about Mac Jones?
Yeah, never mind. No, not yet.
Justin Fields he's a linebacker. He's a safety playing quarterback.
I forgot that he ran that.
He's the best. He's physically the best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, physically, yeah. Arm strength, like maybe you make the Lawrence argument for just straight arm strength, but
Yeah.
overall athletic and ceiling, it's Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Which personally, that's why I'm kind of shocked that the Niners aren't going to take him, particularly given Shanahan's offense with downhill run the ball football, a lot of boots. Like I thought they're trading up to lock in Fields. Like that was my immediate thought.
So also in Shanahan's offense, it's not like Garoppolo went through that many reads, right? It was all play action where you throw your first read anyway. And Kittle's probably going to be open. Like most
by
of
the
the time.
way, who's better on the move with the option to either throw while you're rolling out, or option number 4 is take off with your legs, Mac Jones or Justin Fields?
Yeah.
That's not a question. It's not a debate. And that surprised me. But then on the flip side, right, if you're looking at, this opportunity for the Pats, you got to be licking your chops if you're McDaniels and Belichick. If you can find a way to, if somehow it gets to pick 8 and Fields is still on the board, you need to make this move.
Yeah.
I
think that's why I love this mock, is because, I mean, the Patriots have to trade up if he's available.
Yeah,
they have to. Because like if Cam Newton, like I just don't believe in Cam Newton anymore. I think he's over the hill. Like it's
real simple, Matt. It's real simple, right? If it's pre-COVID Cam Newton, I said this last week, the guy that we saw in Seattle, we were saying might win the MVP, then the Patriots this year could be really freaking good, right?
Yeah.
If he's anything post-COVID Cam, then his career's really done for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
It's a real simple proposition. And Fields doesn't have to start day one. So you trade up for Fields, you get Fields. I would be shocked if Belichick starts him day one. You start Cam Newton, see what you're working with. By the way, that's a 1-year, $5 million deal. So there's no commitment there.
Yeah.
So, and you see what you got, and you're going to know pretty quick which Cam Newton it is. Is he bouncing balls, or is he, is it Seattle and Miami Cam Newton, right? Like, it's not going to be hard to decipher. And then, like you said, I wouldn't be shocked if they do the Darnold treatment that you suggested.
Yeah.
Play Newton to the bye and go hand it off the field. And then Newton's gone next year. So,
well, here's my thing with that, right? That offense you're talking about before pre-COVID, right? You're talking about the Seahawks game. That offense was pretty much predicated on Cam Newton being able to run the football from the quarterback position, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think they designed the offense for that once they had Cam Newton.
And if he is healthy, it is possible, I think, for them to, have success like that. But
100%.
It's a big if, I think, for Cam Newton at 31 years of age to be able to run the football like that. He's
also throwing the ball much better before COVID. Like he wasn't skipping people.
One of the craziest drop-offs ever. Like it's
night and day. It was literally night and day.
Yeah.
Like Cam Newton never was a very accurate deep ball thrower, but the thing that I think went underappreciated is that in Carolina, he was actually a very accurate, relatively short ball thrower. And so I actually thought in the Patriots offense, that was going to translate really well. And it looked like that was the case the first 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden it just he got COVID. And I mean, the thing is, we still don't know what effects COVID have on people. And it also differs so much person to person, but it's hard for me to believe that in 3 weeks, someone can go from looking like a MVP type quarterback where he's going to take the Patriots as far as he can take them to not even being a starter. Like he got benched for Stidham. Stidham looks terrible. Like Stidham doesn't look like an NFL quarterback.
Well, you have to imagine a lot of it's mental, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I love what they're doing in New England. I think that getting him, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry for, like you said, those short to medium range passes where he kind of did excel in Carolina. That was a good thing that they're doing offensively. But I feel like it's a big if we get that, if we get that Cam Newton pre-COVID.
Yeah. Any other big takeaways from the draft? I know we're only 11 picks in. I'm gonna quickly something that I wanted to point out as a Steeler homer.
I was gonna mention it too.
Yeah. So going back to your point about Darnold, I don't think he sucks, but his market's really small. I was saying this to one of my buddies the other day. let's throw in a 3rd round pick, take a flyer on Darnold, let him sit a year behind Big Ben, and then we'll take Najee Harris at pick number 24. And then next year we'll hand it on over to Sam Darnold, ready to rock. And he'll be USC Sam Darnold that we all know and love from the Rose Bowl. And that offense is going to be humming.
Mm.
And we're going to be healthy on defense. And we're young and we're talented. And we're right back where we were 2.5 years ago.
I think the Najee Harris pick is huge for the Steelers because you think of, this was talked about ad nauseum, I think, last year, but when you think about the Steelers, you think about ground and pound and defense, and they literally couldn't run the ball.
No.
And I think James Conner is not a bad running back, but he should be a second string running back, I think, in the NFL. And so you get Najee Harris. Alabama running backs are have just done overall, other than Trent Richardson, I think, really well in the NFL. I mean, you look at Derrick Henry, but I think Najee Harris looked incredible in the playoffs and all of last year, and I think that'll really improve the Steelers kind of right away.
Yeah, I agree. The one other thing that I thought was really interesting. So pick number 32. Not a lot of people know this guy. This kid, Zaven Collins, out of Tulsa, is an absolute freak. And all he does is run around the field and make plays.
Yeah.
I probably gambled more than I should have last college football season, and far too many times against Tulsa. And all I can remember is seeing Zaven Collins run around the field, making plays. And for a value at pick number 32, the rich are getting richer. So this dude is sideline to sideline. You know what he's like? He is like a lower market version of Isaiah Simmons. The kid can play all over the place. He's freakishly athletic. He can, like I said, run side to sideline, can cover people, can come downhill. He will have an immediate impact for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And by the way, they're returning 22 starters. So I think that pick could potentially be a royal sleeper at the bottom of the first.
I mean,
honestly, it is a great pick. I wouldn't be surprised if he even jumped upwards a little bit just because of how well he tested, right? You know? So that kid, you're right, that kid's an absolute dog, and he's all over the field every time he plays. So
it's not even the test, like the testing was whatever, he's an athlete. But like you put on that tape and you're like, who's that kid?
Yeah. What I think is crazy is talk about returning 22 starters for the Bucs. Every team usually drafts for a need, and the Bucs literally don't have one. And so they're literally just can pick whoever they deem the best player available. They can just pick that player, which is crazy. And I'm really interested. It's shocking to me that Vegas still has the Chiefs as the favorite to win the Super Bowl, because I think that has to be a reflection of the national or the NFC being more competitive. But that I can't believe they're not the favorites right now. I can't believe.
Or they really believe that offensive line being super unhealthy was the reason that they lost.
Yeah,
but they still didn't. They lost. They aren't coming back though. Like
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you that's the only.
Yeah.
I think it has to be that there's just no one who can really touch the Chiefs in the AFC.
So they're a walk for the Super Bowl, and then the Bucs have a harder path.
Yeah, I think
I will say in the AFC, I think that the Bills are just a couple pieces away from being able to do that, right? Like the Chiefs are a very good team. The Bills have a lot of talent. They're not quite there yet, but I think if they got I don't know exactly what they do everything well, right? Like if they just got another, not a stud, but like a number 2 receiver behind Stephon Diggs, or if they just got someone on defense, like an edge rusher that was just dominant, I think that they would be.
Yeah, McShay hasn't taken that kid from Miami, Phillips, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't think this class is great from a pass rushing perspective.
It's not. No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, I think the Bills are great. I just don't think for the next decade I'm going to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just not, they can lose a game because it's one and done in the NFL. Like they can lay in the receive. It's not like the more so than anything, the receivers laid an egg in the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Like they dropped 2 touchdowns that hit them in the face mask, and then that third down that Kelsey dropped was critical. Like that, and the one where it hit him in the hands and he just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not betting against that team until Patrick Mahomes shows he's not a Superman.
Very fair. Very fair.
So anything else on the draft? I think this is going to be kind of an iterative discussion. I think actually Kuiper's new one comes out next week, so we can come back and kind of next week. But that's all I had. Really staggering takeaways. I'm interested. I think it's gonna be a really interesting draft. I think there'll be more moves to be had moving on to it.
Very interesting.
I liked that tight end going to the Falcons. I just liked that.
Oh
pick.
yeah, Pitts is disgusting. Pitts. I think is gonna be a once in it. Like he could be like Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, like style impact in terms of like they're different players. He's more of a wide receiver, but like I'm talking like this kid has Hall of Fame upside. I remember watching him. I don't know, Frank, if you remember, like I was texting in the group like every week. Like he had 3 touchdowns at halftime for like 3 weeks in a row. Like he was just unbelievable. And
for all intents and purposes, he is the best receiver in the draft, right? But
yeah, you make an argument. He's really good. Yeah.
I think, and a pass catching tight end is critical in today's NFL. You look at all the best teams, like they all have one. I mean, Kelsey's making a run at the GOAT. I think Gronk is the GOAT. He caught 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Kittle is the best.
Kittle's the best tight end.
Yeah. 2 years ago, Kittle was the best offensive player outside of a quarterback. Like when the
PFF, right?
Super Bowl run, I think he was the best offensive player.
I also think he was the second highest graded player in all of football PFF.
Yeah. So I think if you have the opportunity to get one of those types of players and you think you already have a quarterback, I just loved that pick for the offense to get Julio Jones doesn't catch touchdowns, especially in the red zone. I don't know why, but he just doesn't. He hasn't for years. And I think introducing Pitts to that receiving core would honestly just unlock Julio and then Calvin.
Yeah, it alleviates a lot of stress on Julio. I agree.
And that's why I liked that pick so much.
Yeah, I agree. Do we want to quickly hit? I know we're coming up on time here. Kind of our bets of the weekend or bet of the day. A little quick segment that Matt has introduced to us. We're gonna do a weekly betting segment from our residents, our sharpened residents, Matty Fisher. Matt, how many units are you up in the past month on action? You sent it to us.
I'm as of last night over a K, and I'm only betting $50 a bet. So that speaks to the
20 units.
1K.
Yeah, so 20 units. So if you're betting $50 bets,
yeah, exactly.
You're up 20 units.
It's a little bit more than that too with the rake actually, because it's like I win like 45. But yeah. He's
on a absolute heater.
Yeah.
And with that, Maddie, kick us off with your bet of the week.
This segment's all about making everyone money. I mean, honestly, people should tune in. It's free money. That's how I think about it.
Just tell Matt.
Yeah, exactly. I should start tweeting these picks too. If this really starts going.
Frank, track these.
Oh, absolutely. I'm already doing it.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do for these picks, I'm gonna just stay with the final 4 because I think that's most relevant. Next week when we get into the NBA, I'll start talking more about my NBA picks.
Okay.
But what I like to do, and we do this in our job, Alex, is you obviously can't predict with numbers, but what I like to do is create stories about what you have to believe for game script. And I always bet a spread and a total. And so for me, UCLA Gonzaga, I'll start with that one. I told myself in the Sweet 16, I'd never bet against Gonzaga. I then bet against Gonzaga in the Elite 8 and got absolutely hammered. So I'm gonna go Gonzaga minus 14.5. I think they absolutely blow out UCLA. And I actually think the under when I last looked at was 136. I'm gonna go under, and I think the score is gonna be something like let's go like 75-55 type score.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sending this video right to Johnny Juzang right after this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit up Christian, his younger brother, or his older brother, who I went to Harvard with. Like,
Yeah, dude.
yo, Juicy, send us to your brother real quick. We got to cover 14.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm hammering UCLA plus 14. Juzang's going off for 32. Let's go.
Let's go. I love
Let's
it.
go.
Are you gonna bet the total? Like the thing is, like I love that.
I
love
know
my
you're.
bet.
Hey, you are taught well. Steve
Yeah.
Toomey and TJ have taught you well. Tell us,
Shout
what do
them
we
out.
have to believe
Or do we
to
have
hit
to
our
believe?
returns? What do we have to
How
believe?
believable of a score is 75-55? It squeaks the under, and
It's
Gonzaga
super believable.
comfortably
It's
covered.
super
I love
believable,
that.
which is
I
what I
just
hate.
love that bet.
So what I have to believe is that if we're hammering plus 14, it's going to be well under 136. It's
Yeah,
going to be like a 64-58 win for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. So that's, I'll throw the under as well. So I'll say under and UCLA plus 14.5. And that is my bet of the week. Frankie Cox.
Matt, I love minus 14.5. I saw it open at 14 and I said, yeah, this is a trap, everyone. They want everyone to bet UCLA.
I fell. I'm
would
going to
not
the trap, baby.
I simply would never.
right there.
I would never. I'm gonna play something different because I don't want to bet the same thing as Matt, but I'm gonna go over the NHL side of things. You know, I'm a big hockey guy.
Shit. Woo!
I love
Big
that.
hockey guy. And the New York Rangers are playing the single worst team in the league, the Buffalo Sabres. Rangers beat the Sabres Thursday night, 2-1 in overtime. No, 3-2 in overtime. I'm taking the Sabres plus 210 for no reason other than this team is terrible and they have no business winning this hockey game.
You know what that means?
You know what
Everyone
that means.
hammer the Rangers. They're going to win 4-0.
Hammer the Rangers.
I'm a Rangers fan too, so this hurts, but I know it's going to happen. I see it in my head.
Foxy's not going to let that happen, bro.
They're blowing this hockey game. They absolutely are.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, those are our picks of the week. Any parting thoughts on the game? We are well over our allotted hour, but that is totally fine. I had an absolute blast. Excited for these games tonight.
Can't wait.
Anything, Matt? Anything, Frank?
I'm gonna do a little tease. I think my hot take of the week, which we'll talk about next week, is I think Denver's winning the West, and I think it's my pick of the week. Hammer Denver plus 900 to win the West. I think that is a absolute steal at the moment.
That will be that's going to be our lead off next week. Is the NBA current state of affairs.
Yep. Along
with some questionable comments from Kevin Durant.
Little oopsie, little can't do that.
On that note, shall we say goodbye, friends?
Goodbye. And hey, everyone celebrating. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Hey, tomorrow's the Lord's Day. Tell someone you love them. See you guys.
See ya.